Hey everybody, welcome back. Is that excitement you hear in my voice? Excitement to play Isaac? Well, we've been having with 2 wins in a row. Tainted Apollyon to the Beast. Okay, hold on. This is where I wish I could do a great James McAvoy impression. You know, you wouldn't like him when he summons the Beast. You know, it's kind of like that. You know, you seen Split? It's kind of like that. He's like, oh, I'm this guy. And now I'm this guy. Now I'm this guy. It's a good time. Very, you know, when I say a good time, I mean a fun movie. Is it a good movie? Sure, why not? Have I talked to you yet about the fact that I don't understand the concept of the movie Glass? Because in the movie Glass, so I'm gonna spoil it, and I've only seen like half of it, but I read all the spoilers on Wikipedia, because after watching half of it, I was like, what do you, come on, like, it just doesn't make sense. Which is typical, or at least not outside of the norm for M. Night Shyamalan movies. Like, a lot of them, in order to buy into their twist-based nature, you have to, you know, ignore something that happened halfway through the movie that makes no sense. Like, I mean, come on, the part in Signs, I don't really understand how Mel Gibson's wife, when she got pancaked by a drunk dump truck driver, she knows to tell Joaquin Phoenix to swing away, and that exact moment pops into it. Like, while she was dying, she saw visions of like an alien invasion. That's gotta, or is it just happenstance? I don't know. Because honestly, if I were her, I would be like, can you imagine how terrifying that would be to get into a car accident and then the future flashes before your eyes and there's freaking aliens invading? Like, just let me go, man. At that point, just let me go. And I think that I would, you know, if I was coherent enough to understand what was happening, I would say, when the aliens show up, there will be a moment where you need to use the baseball bat. I wouldn't just repeat swing away like 10 times, but maybe I'm missing some subtext. You never know, because Shyamalan, he doesn't always do subtext. Sometimes there's subtext, it's about his rediscovering his faith. And sometimes he does super text, you know? I like Bone Spurs. I'm not against Bone Spurs here. If you haven't seen the movie Split, James McAvoy plays a someone suffering from differential identity disorder. So he has multiple personalities inside of him that surface and then, you know, go rogue and blah blah blah. Some of them are very nice and gentle, or at least accommodating, if not menacing. And some of them are like, you know, one of them is called the Beast, and the whole movie they're like, you don't want to be here when like the Beast gets here. Oh, he's a bad man.
My stomach kind of just gave out.
Oh my god, I forgot I had Apollo his Twitch stream open because he was gone for so long. This scared the crap out of me, man. I thought he was in the room with me. You wouldn't want to be here when the Beast shows up. Anyway, so, like, again, this is spoilers for both Split and Glass, the follow-up to both Split and Unbreakable. But big part of the first movie is like, oh, how scary could this Beast guy be? Like, he's just a guy, right? Like, he's just you? Don't hit me. Like, I've been through a lot in my life. Then, when the Beast shows up, it's not just him, man. It's not just him at all. He starts crawling on the ceiling. He gets like super strength and stuff like that. Like, he's like a genuine villain, right? Like, he's got superpowers. Anyway, knowing that, the plot of Glass is like all of the people from the Shyamalan universe that have powers end up in like basically a mental hospital. And then this lady there tries to convince them that they don't have powers. You know, she's like, you're just suffering from mental illness. And I'm like, lady, I saw this guy get 2 feet taller and pick up a UPS truck and throw it at Bruce Willis. What do you mean it's all in his head? And then people try to like reason, and they say, well, like, that's actually like the point. Like, she's actually working, like, she's trying to convince them they don't have powers for like whatever reason. But actually, the twist is that they do. And I'm like, yeah. I know, because I saw him pick up that truck and throw it. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if I was thinking too hard or not hard enough, but, like, it just never made sense to me that, like, you know, even with, like, this being a supervillain plot, like, nobody was like, hey, why are you trying to convince them they don't have powers when you saw that guy pick up a car with his hands? I don't know, maybe, again, I'm genuinely not trying to be, like, semantic. It's just, that's what it takes, like, plot-wise, in order to take me out of a movie. Most of the other movies where people are like, oh, Spider-Man said he was gonna turn vegetarian, but then he's eating a hot dog. What gives? You know? Most other times like that, I'm like, it doesn't really bother me. In fact, I might even take it a step further. Sometimes when people call out, like, a plot hole in a movie, it's literally just the actual movie, and they didn't get something, and they think it's a plot hole. I can't think of a specific example, but you see it all the time. Many people are saying this. Hold on. I gotta go to the room here because Soul of Eve is incredible for killing a boss that would be otherwise annoying. Just remember, we don't have a long time before we have to start committing to this alt path. Bro, they just keep giving me 10 out of 10 items. And you know what's funny is that I'm actually, like, upset that they keep giving me great items because I want to create more value from Abyss. But this is the right thing to do. It's just not necessarily Tainted Apollyon's, you know, soup du jour, if you will. Sounds delicious. I'll have that. But it is, like, I mean, you'd really rather have all the items we've picked up so far, with the possible exception of Bone Spurs. You'd rather have all of those than have a couple extra flies. So in a weird way, I'm, like, upset that I've gotten so many decent items. That's a rare situation to be in. No doubt about that. Anyway, how am I doing? Well, I'm a little dehydrated, just, like, not just because I've been talking all day, so I'm gonna do the little athletic water bottle squirt. It's gonna annoy you with the sound. I didn't squeeze it hard enough that the bottle started gasping for air. You know how it is. I'm very tempted to Soul of Eve, but dude, people underrate Bone Spurs, at least against Duke of Flies. Look at this. This guy's, he's trapped in there. You got nowhere to go. Now, I would like to Abyss that, but I'm going to be honest, we're going to stick with Angel Deals for now, just because my HP's not where I need it to be. We're building a pattern of how to, like, succeed on these runs, and it's actually starting to work for me, so I don't want to deviate from it. We definitely are going to need a tiers upgrade. That's obvious. Apart from that, though, I mean, HP is on the list, but everything else is looking pretty good. I mean, with Satanic Bible, we probably don't even need HP. We'll feel more comfortable taking devil deals in our future and looking good. Everyone in the household is feeling good. I mean, I don't mean this in, like, a, you know, accusatory way, but it's about time. I'm mad at the germs more than anything else. Also, like, man, I know people are gonna think this is like a COVID cover-up or whatever, but the misfortune to have your family, particularly my wife, come down with, like, relatively severe flu-like illness for 3 weeks could have been better timing than, like, at the exact peak of Omicron discovery and also fervor. Like, if you go to, like, any city subreddit, or at least if you go to r Vancouver, or I also saw on r/NYC, like, every post is like, tried to get a COVID test today. It took 8 hours through the drive-thru that normally takes 20 minutes. So, yeah, I'm happy we're on the other side. We did get COVID tested, and we tested negative yet again. I'm, like, such an expert at the COVID test, man. I think I don't even need to study anymore. I went 18 months plus without having a COVID test. In the last 30 days, I've had 4. And can I tell you, I aced every single one of them so far. What can I say? So I'm glad that honestly, just being back in the routine is the greatest holiday gift of all. I love the routine. Everybody's, you know, feeling good. Everybody's doing what they normally do. Baby's at daycare. Wife is streaming. I'm pogging. You know how it goes. You know what? It's a perfect Soul of Eve play. Oh, we got another one. That's so sick, dude. I'm calling it possibly the highest value continuum that's ever existed. I'll just level with you, man. I just like Rotten Baby. I think that's just a nice get. I think that's fairly obvious, especially when we got the pentagram as well. Should be using this as often as possible. But yeah, that's about it. Didn't get up to too much. Although I gotta be honest, like the kind of anecdotes I got right now might be more interesting to you than the typical grocery store stuff. I actually did. I mean, on stream today, I did 2 runs of Super Mario 64. Set a PB in both of them. Whew. I thought about it too, because Midas Touch is kind of sick, honestly. But let's get the heck out of town. Actually, you know what? Let's do the room so we can get more Satanic Bible charges. Let's be the change we want to see in the world here. Yeah, they got a little like new route guidance, and I realized how insane is it. I would have thought you were crazy if you told me this like a year and a half ago, but in the year 2021, because my best time in Super Mario 64 is like 39 minutes or something like that now. How insane would you have thought I was if I was like, in 2021, it will take less time... Well, that's not a secret room, come on. To beat a run of Super Mario 64, a game that you've never really played before. It'll take less time to beat Super Mario 64 than it will to beat the average Isaac run. How crazy is that? We've come a long way, like, in both directions, I guess. Like, it's now, like, I've hit the point, I even off camera, you know, I just had, like, you know, an hour of free time last night, and I was like, you know what? Why don't I try, like, get a little Mario 64 practice in? Kate was watching YouTube videos on the couch, I just sat up beside her, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm doing speedruns Nintendo Switch handheld mode. It's just kind of like a nice way to spend 40 minutes, honestly. I thought, I mean, obviously, like, I'm not trying to say that speedrunning is, like, oh, easy or casual or whatever, but to be able to just boot up Mario 64 and be like, yeah, I'll do a quick, you know, run. We got 2 hours, I'll do 2 runs or something like that. It's new. I don't know, I guess, like, I would never say... I mean, I shouldn't say that, because what I was going to say is I'd never say never, but I say never all the time, and then I just go back on it, you know? I'll never play Isaac past 2014. Here we are, it's 2021. I'm soon to be 2022, you son of a gun. I'll never be a speedrunner spit out cereal, because all of a sudden I'm a dang speedrunner now. I would love, I think my thing for speedruns is like, why is the Mario 64 speedrun so fun? Well, there's a few reasons. One is, it's short. It also had a relative, like, I mean, under 1 hour is pretty much like a sweet spot for me for almost any kind of experience except a movie, where for some reason I'm like, you slop them up, the longer the better. Like when Dune ended, I was like, I feel like I've been here for 6 hours and I could have done another 6 easy. I don't know. Do I always take the luck and then I'm always like, oops, I got hit. Like, do we have to go down this road? Let's not do it. Beautiful place. Beautiful place. I don't mind it. Losing out on our item pedestal thanks to Satanic Bible is actually like a genuine negative for us for sure, but I still think we're in a great spot. The other thing is relatively easy to learn and quite modular, you know? Like, you could make it as difficult as you want to. You could make it as easy as you want to. Obviously, the more difficult you make it, the better your time will be if you get it right. You know, if you do it right anyway. But still, you know, like, I'm at the level where I'm like, I don't really want to go for, like, you know, for example, the Shifting Sandlands movement tech Shy Guy onto Vulture Skip. Instead, I'll just take the long way around. It costs you like 15 extra seconds, but then you know, you feel much more consistent as a result. And then the other thing is, there's so many, like, it's full of pog-rich moments, right? Like, if you haven't watched any of the Mario 64 runs, there's a lot of stuff to like, you know? Mips Clip is fun. BLJs, the jumps where you go backwards up the stairs, those are fun. Elevator clip on Hazy Maze Cave, cannonless, like there's a lot of fun. It's a tinted rock, you piece. There's a lot of fun things to watch. It's not just like, oh, I played the game fast, or like, you know, I also hate to say this because I don't want to like rain on anybody's parade necessarily, but you know, I've seen some speedruns on like AGDQ, SGDQ. Some of them are like, you know, 3 hours long, and then there's like one funny part in the whole thing. It's not really the runner's fault, you know? But like, you watch them do the whole run, and then they're like, oh, here's the funny part. And they like jump on a squirrel's head and then hit 17 buttons, and then it goes like, whoa, 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 whoa. And they're like, that's called WAS skip. And you're like, then everybody claps, right? Mario is like, there's like 6 of those in half an hour. Like, that's a lot of fun. Now, I understand not every game can be Mario 64 in that case, but no wonder so many people are running Super Mario 64 speedruns, man. Because, like, it's easy to learn, scales with your confidence and acumen, and also it has many moments throughout the game, not just one, many moments throughout the game where Mario goes, whoo, 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 yeah, whoo, 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 whoo. So, like, you know, I think, are there any other speedrun type games that are in this same ilk? I got no interest in, you know, becoming the world's #1 GoldenEye streamer, because I don't know if I could honestly get a Streets 112. I would love to try, but I don't know if I could actually manage it at the end of the day. I mean, it is an RL MR time, and I am not the RL, but I'm one of them. I'm not RL Stein, but I am un-RL. Well, that's unfortunate. I'm just gonna take it rather than come back. It's not good, but at the same time, I'd rather make sure my HP, you know, we're probably getting somewhat close to the point where you'd want to start building it, especially when you consider we're using Satanic Bible to get deals with the devil every single floor, which means we're probably like breaking even on our HP at best, most floors. But yeah, I'd be interested. I'm not done with Mario yet. There's still a little bit of room for like semi-easy improvement, I think, but you know, a lot of room for real improvement if you find yourself interested in going the distance, which, I mean, realistically, I don't ever see myself climbing the leaderboards, but, you know, running a run now and then for fun, or races against other like-minded and like-skilled individuals in our circle, absolutely. But if there are others that are in that same boat, don't recommend me some stuff, high skill, 4-hour long Breath of the Wild speed run. Like, I get that it's impressive. I mean, it needs to strike that degree of hitability as well. You know what I mean? Okay, angel deal, angel deal. I guess I could not get an angel deal now that I think about it. You know what? Guppy's tail. I leave you behind. I break the wrist and I walk away. It's that simple. It's a neat run because we're learning like the genuine negatives of Satanic Bible. Whoops, I hit Q by accident there. My mistake. What have I done? We're learning the genuine negatives of Satanic Bible, and you know, it's not much, let's be honest, but we are starving for stats. Especially, dude, I'll turn that into a fly. 25 cents, the easiest fly of my life, man. Easiest fly of my life. We're starving for speed. We're starving for, you know, red hard HP as a result of the fact that we have not gotten any, like, boss items. That being said, I would just like, you know, if the balance team is watching this, many Isaac runs, and this is real. This is not like many people are saying this, which is like, you know, when you're like, source dude, just trust me. But, many Isaac runs end up starved for those stats regardless. Even if you go to every single boss that there is, because you get paid out with Pageant Boy and, you know, oh, you can hold 2 trinkets. Oh, you can hold 2 pills, you know. So I didn't mean to be rude or anything. I'm just saying the knock that you might think that this is on Satanic Bible is not that much of a knock. And you're like, okay, I heard what you're saying. Time to get some more nerfs in the game. No, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. You're taking me out of context. That's ignorant. You're just trying to prove a point instead of coming to a reconciliation. And I don't respect it. Many people are saying this. Okay, take one of these. Emperor. 2 of hearts. Moon. Oh, not that good. That's pretty good, though. I mean, the Emperor is good, but we would rather have the Soul of Eve, for sure. I don't know, like, I think... Haven't we... I feel like I'm setting myself up for failure. Haven't we done this before? Where we've had the Soul of Eve. We've used it on the boss, and then, like, the endgame boss, the Beast. If it even has superpowers. And then, like, no birds came. Or birds came, but they did so little damage that it didn't even, like, they ran away before famine was done or something like that. This all sounds right to me. Oh, excuse me. Look at this. Right away. Nice to have it. So, I mean, things are going to start to get semi-real here. I actually think we've had a nice, like, almost gentle run, if you will. You know, we got Satanic Bible, so our HP is pretty much sorted. We've had a good supply of, you know, offense. We've had a good supply of defense, mostly Satanic Bible. We've abyssed a couple items that were pretty much detritus. And we've picked up a few items that are actually good. So, like, I'm feeling hashtag blessed on this run right here. Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. I can't stop moving. Excuse me. We even got an HP upgrade there. Holy crap. Yeah, I'm feeling like this was like the exact... Because, if you're going to ask me, would I rather a run is too easy or too hard? I definitely would rather it's too easy. And, you know, you could play that as, like, I'm part of, like, the weakest generation of all time. Or whatever. That's not true. And then this is where it's a choose your own adventure book. If you're over the age of 40, please flip to 15 seconds from now. That's not true. Gen Z exists. Okay, and if you're under the age of 30, I'm going to need you to flip ahead 22 seconds. That's not true. The baby boomers exist. Okay, and now that we've done that, now that we've pitted the generations against one another, millennials, we get to just sit here and... I hope you're not allergic to dairy, because it's going to be epic. Wait for it. Dairy. I know, look, I don't want to pit the generations against one another. I will say, if you're watching this and you're part of Gen Z, I don't lump all y'all in this together. But I always hate when, like, Gen Z... You see it on Twitter sometimes. Someone will make a post that's like, you know... Millennials fighting baby boomers, Gen Z fighting millennials, and Gen X, we're just sitting here, like, you know, listening to Nirvana's Nevermind. And then there will be, it's a joke, you know, we all relate to humor within our own generation to some extent or another. But then there will be people in the replies that are, like, from Gen X, and they're like, I'm from Gen X, nothing... new to me about being forgotten, because I had to go home from school myself and then watch TV for 2 hours before my mom came home from work. And I'm like, bro, you are literally between the ages of like 50 and 65 years old. Can you just get over it? I'm sorry. But it is also what I truly... you know, feel like not to say the things that affect, you know, Gen Z don't affect other generations and vice versa, but, you know, I feel like, or Gen X I should say, but I feel like the particular Gen Z and millennials, I'll lump us a little in there, like, you know, they spearheaded the hopefully the fight towards sustainability and climate change and yada yada yada, and then you got Gen X over here that's like, I watched Beavis and Butthead when my dad was late to come home from work. And I'm like, bro, you have 4 kids. You gotta... I'm not saying, you know, your trauma's not real. I'm just saying at some point you gotta find a way to move past it so we can, you know, get some serious stuff done. News media doesn't pay attention to my generation. Bro, what's that like? That would be kind of sick, honestly. Like, just get over it. We're trying to go through some real stuff here. Don't make me get the cultural weapons out for Gen X, which I've sent Gen Z like 20 times instead of Gen X. I apologize. But trust me, you don't want me to write my annals of history, because I'm going to make you go down as the generation that popularized clocks that just have, instead of numbers on them, it just says wine for all 12 hours. You want that to be your legacy? Then keep picking fights on social media, okay? Otherwise, we can all just get along. You could talk, go ahead, talk. Your music was better than my generation's music. You popularized grunge, go for it. That's totally fine. I got nothing but respect for that. Honestly, Gen Z's music is better than the millennial music that was on the radio when I was a teenager as well. They got us beat there too. We grew up in a bit of a cultural dead zone for popular music at the very least. I'll say negative things about my generation, dude. Nobody can rag on someone like a peer, right? But I'm just... Oh, the Gen X stuff, just sometimes I'm just like, man, you gotta get over it. Like, my parents are Gen X. Sometimes, and I think this is natural, do they sometimes find themselves being like, man, the younger generation complains a lot? Yeah, but I try to meet them halfway and explain, you know, like, not to be... I definitely want that, just to be honest. Not to be overly pessimistic, but I try to explain to them, like, as somebody who's 30, you know, I really felt like, you know, when I was growing up, it seemed like the world was on a generally kind of upward trajectory. And then, like, I don't really know what happened. Combination of a few different things, I guess, or it's a multifaceted issue. Now it seems like that's kind of in question, or for the even more pessimistic people, I think I look at it somewhat rationally. I'm not just like an outright doomer for no reason. Some people are like, oh, there's no chance that it trends upwards. I'm more like, you know, I've gone from like, oh, it's a sure thing. Like, man, imagine what kind of flying cars we're going to have in like, you know, 2060 to like, I hope that things are okay in 2025. And I think they, you know, they kind of get it. And to their credit, you know, they're in Gen X, I think, more or less. They're not boomers for sure. I mean, like, they were born like, you know, 20 years after the Second World War ended. But they never complain about, like, you know, how they were raised or anything like that. Sometimes they'll bring up what they would describe as funny stories about it, but they're not as... I think everybody gets out of touch when they get older, myself included. They're relatively in touch for people who are in their, I guess, late 50s now. I'm proud of them. We don't agree on everything, but I think they at least usually make an effort to see. I always feel lucky. A lot of people are like, I can't even talk to my parents because they're, you know, oh, wait, a source sent from my iPhone. I was talking to, okay, look, again, this might seem like it's negative. It's more just like, I'm chilling, man. I got a full belly. I'm enjoying life right now. I always laugh, and I brought this up on Dadcraft today, but like, sometimes you'll see someone like, you know, complaining about something that is serious, you know, climate change or, you know, something of the like, or income inequality, and then someone will like very snarkily reply as if they have like the greatest comeback. They'll be like, sent from my iPhone. And I if you don't think about it for more than half a second, it does seem like a great own. Right? Like, wow, this person's complaining about things, and yet they own a device in their pocket that has, like, the computing power of something that, you know, NASA used in the 1960s to send 3 men to the moon, which is not even true. It's probably, like, 10,000 times more powerful than the computers on the first, or on Apollo 11, especially. But anyway, then I got to thinking, like, what is it about the iPhone that, like, makes your life so good that you can't complain? You know, like, you can't complain about anything because I got a device in my pocket that lets me go to, like, you know, r/hockey whenever I want. Like, oh my god. Originally, I was going to complain about how, you know, like, inflation is 6%, but then, look, this is not me. I'm making up a person that really exists. But, you know, inflation was 7% this year, and yet my cost of living raise was 1%. So effectively, I had like a 6% pay cut this year, You're supposed to be like, oh, but I don't have to wait for tomorrow's newspaper to know when what the Bruins Habs score is. Thank God. No, I've decided this is worth it now. Like, you know, I always am just, what are these people doing on their phones where they're like, well, I'll never complain about anything as long as I got my iPhone. Like, I got to figure out what kind of apps you got, man. You got the app that makes it look like you're drinking a beer when you turn your phone upside down? Like that... That seems, you've got like the key to eternal happiness or something, because apparently nobody can complain about anything as long as they got iPhones and Netflix. I'm not gonna say, you know, I guess where people get annoyed is not acknowledging like how relatively comfortable that life is, you know, at a certain level, at least in North America, but whatever people are like, they always put the iPhone on such a pedestal. It's like, bro, people are using this to like doom scroll through like bad news. It's not exactly like the greatest. It's an incredible piece of technology. It would be annoying. I'm not going to say hard, because I think, you know, we would just get over it in a few years, but it's transformed society. It would be annoying to go back to the time when you didn't have it. You'd be like, oh, I have to get home real soon and find out, you know, like what is the, I have to wait 10 minutes to figure out what the largest Great Lake is. You know, there's an element of that for sure, but at the same time, I'm like, it doesn't mean you can't complain about anything just because you got a Candy Crush machine in your pocket. Doesn't make any dang sense, man. All right, how are we gonna do here? I mean, I feel like what we should actually do intelligent. You know what we did last time? It popped into my brain fully formed. Last time we came through here, one of these days, man, we used Soul of Eve on the first phase of this fight, and it didn't work out. Like, the birds came in, ate for 5 seconds, and then completely disappeared. Didn't even show up for phase 2. So what we're gonna do this time is, I honestly think, you know what, I'm gonna save it for a horseman, and even if they only help us kill the first horseman, that's better, I think. We're doing okay right here. Our damage is not exceptional. Cool attack. But it's okay. Like, I don't think it's gonna be that deleterious of a fight for us here. I don't know. I'm of the opinion, and this, I don't have any data to back this up, including, you know, the worst form of data, like, you know, user reports or whatever, but I feel that in general, like, taking over a large enough time scale, like, you know, trying to take out the parts where human happiness was probably very low, like, you know, during the bubonic plague and, you know, like, in wars and stuff like that. I know there's a lot of war in history, but I think genuinely, I mean to say, I bet that relative human happiness outside of those, you know, relatively extreme sort of time periods that admittedly can last like decades, if not even longer sometimes. I'm willing to bet that human happiness had largely on like a pretty even keel. At least, I bet if you asked from like the 1950s until 2020, human happiness would be roughly level. You know, a couple of ebbs, couple of flows, depends where you live, depends what you've gone through. On an individual level, there's huge swings, but on a large population size, you know, I think pretty much everybody, you know, on average is going to be like, oh, I'm at about like a 6 or a 7. But in its own way, isn't that kind of weird? Because obviously, life has improved. I know you're going to be like, has it? But it has, you know, in terms of like global access to food and medicine and, you know, water and stability and stuff like that. Like, I mean, things are maybe a little more pessimistic now than they have been, I don't know, even throughout my entire life, perhaps. But I also can't deny that, like, imagine you were like, you know, you turned 17 years old in 1914, and then like 30 years later, you're in your mid-40s, and it's like, oh, by the way, we're gonna do that whole like World War thing again. You know, like I think that generation, not to say that they're, you know, superior as a result, but you know, they got hit with some real nasty stuff as well. Not to say again that this is the discourse on the internet. You got to build in 17 because like people won't be like they won't be like, oh, but what do you think about the relative severity of the world wars versus like the climate crisis? They'll be like, imagine thinking that one measly little world war is more happiness destroying than the loss of your whole climate. Okay, like you don't need to talk to people like that. Like we could find the middle ground and both learn as a result. Like I'm trying to build this sentence. It's much easier to tear down a sentence than to build one. So why don't we, come together? I'll get the bricks, you get the mortar, and we'll come up with an amenable solution together. But in its own way, that's kind of beguiling, right? The idea that like when life gets, or let's phrase it differently, even if life gets better, people largely like enjoy that for a little bit. They feel like, oh, it's amazing, Netflix is so cool. And then, like 2 years later, that just has become their normal. And then they're like me. They're spending like an hour being like, Netflix, make a good show 2021 challenge. Oh, you can't? Surprise, surprise. Tell me your Netflix without telling me your Netflix. It's a weird... But I also... You might see that as like a huge negative about humanity, but I bet it also works the other way, right? Like, I don't know if I'm being maybe a little bit too Dr. Panglossian. But like, think about it this way, okay? If you had known and this is a touchy subject because it's a current event. So I won't speak for you, I'll speak for me. If you had told me in March 2020 that it would be December 2021 and COVID would like still be up in the air, we'd be on variant 4, lockdown 6, I would be like, whoa, so I guess they're having trouble getting the vaccines out, right? And then future me, which is now present me, would be like, no, that's the thing, like we got them, and they're like, they work like pretty well, but like the virus keeps mutating and evading, and it's just like a constant like treadmill basically. I would be like pretty, I don't want to say depressed, I'd be pretty upset at that news though, in March 2020, knowing that like, and who knows, I mean, it could be much longer. But having actually lived it, you get adjusted to it. Like, there were like a couple of weeks where I was like, I gotta wait in line to get into the pharmacy? This is outrageous. And now I'm like, plan an extra 10 minutes for the pharmacy trip. and my general level of happiness, I don't know, it wavers between, like a 5 and a 9. I'm right, even though, and admittedly, again, I've been relatively unaffected by the pandemic except for inconvenience, but I think it speaks to humanity's ability to adjust, right? You go through a huge up, you get a big raise at work. 2 months later, you're like, that's just my salary. That's not a raise anymore, and you're back to your normal. You go through a little bit of trauma. You lose your way in life a little bit. You get upset about it for a while, and then like a month later, you're like, oh, this is who I am now. Eating eclairs out of the trash can, like George Costanza. Anyway, that's Isaac. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. That was a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. I'll see you next time. See ya!